people think sitcoms, all comedy, is about jokes. And they think it's Baba Bing. And I love a good joke. But truly, it's about defined characters with a worldview and characters who think funny. And the fact that you got a laugh by just staring at him, and then I don't think so, Tim, is not a joke. It's all attitude.
It's all, yeah.
But it was what was going on in your brain at that moment that made it funny.
Well, I didn't even think of myself as the put upon assistant.
Right.
Because I'm just filling in. I'm not in my mind, I'm not the assistant.
Right.
I am Richard Karn filling in for Stephen Topolowsky, and I'm letting Tim have laughs.
Right.
I'm doing this great gig for a couple of shows, but the audience was way ahead of us.
Yeah.
They saw this relationship before we did.
Yes.
And you saw that and were able to realize you could write into that.
Well, what we saw was something you can't write, but you write to, and that's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And you two had a chemistry for whatever reason you just did. And also, you were the second banana, and you knew that was your role. You were the straight man to the wacky guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till, I don't know, halfway through the first season, I went, oh, the reason this role of Al Borland's so important, he is the point of view of the audience. How Al Borland looks at Tim is how the audience is going, are you really going to plug that in? So I remember you getting laughs. Tim would pull something out, and all you would do is turn and look at it, and they would start laughing because you were their point of view and go, are you really that much of an idiot? You're going to try and...
Tim. And he would always draw me in. And I remember, at one point, you or Karn or somebody said, you don't have to go from A to Z. This isn't a play.
Yes.
You've got 10 seasons or 8 or how many seasons to get there. So you don't have to go all that way. Yeah. And I was working, as a play
right
to get that A to Z, transition. And then every week you'd be back at A.
Absolutely.
Learning
because
again.
if we had changed you, it's not like a streaming show where at the end of 12 episodes, there are different characters. There's been an arc. If we had arced it out,
right,
and by the end of the first season, Tim wasn't interested in tools, or you were bossy to Tim or something, they have to be consistent characters.
Yeah. But you did have to convince Tim that he could be friends with Al.
Yes.
He wasn't quite sure that Al was the kind of guy he would have as a friend.
Right. Well, the character Tim used Al as kind of his whipping post, right?
Right.
And
then could go home.
I've never said this to anyone, and I'm not going to name names. I used to go to a gym early in the morning when we were doing the show. And the fellow who ran the gym had an assistant, and the dynamic was almost identical to the dynamic between Tim and Al. And the gym owner would make fun of him or berate him in front of the clientele as they worked out. And then he would pout, and I would watch this, and I'm going, oh, and so that informed kind of the relationship. But you always had the last word because Tim would do something to screw up.
Yeah.
But that relationship was informed by those 6 a.m. gym visits and watching that dynamic.
Man, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting what all feeds there.
Wow. Well, and I don't know if you've talked about this, but when Francis left.
Yeah.
Have you talked about that?
No.
Because as a young actor, watching, big time television happening.
Right.
Not really realizing, that I'm in the midst of something that's really, really special and unusual and wonderful. 3 days into rehearsal, this wonderful actress, Frances Fisher, got replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And that freaked me out a little bit. It was like I went to Karn. I went to Karn. I said, "Hey, are we that indisposable? I mean, can you just do that? Right. We have 7 more days before you're going to do the pilot, and you're changing a wife."
Right.
And Carmen went, "Rick, it wasn't right. We had an audience, not a big audience, but we had an audience, and there was a line that happened, and it wasn't right." I go, well, she's an actress. Can't she change that line? She goes, "No, it goes deeper than that. It goes to relationship. And, you know, when she has to leave and she knows Tim wants to fix the dishwasher,
Right.
which was the pilot, fixing
Right.
the dishwasher. And she goes,
Don't touch the dishwasher.
Don't touch the dishwasher. I'll show her.
the audience with Francer was, oh yeah, he might do that. Oh no, gosh. And when Pat did it, it was like, oh no, he's gonna do that. She's gonna come on. It was like it was 360, and that was a valuable lesson in chemistry.
And it's not about talent. It's not about craft. It's just it goes back to that ineffable thing called chemistry and the right dynamics between the characters.
Right.
Because you can give this, 4 or 5 wonderful actors the same line and do the scene with them, but one of them's going to spark something in you.
Something's going to be different.
That's a little different. And I always say when the camera's rolling, when there's a camera on, what's happening here, the camera's really recording this energy between us. So as you think and I think, there's something going on right here.
Yeah.
And that is that ineffable energy field, that thing that happens when you have chemistry between these people, because you can say your line, I can say my line, but then there's that third element. And you just get lucky and hit it sometimes,
Yeah. And we were able to create the character together.
Yeah. Well, you added so much and you would have ideas, and the more
But at first, I didn't really know how to articulate that kind of thing. I would watch Tim and Pat, say stuff, and I knew well enough to know that I'm not ready yet.
Yep.
But I think the first time I felt like I could do that was the ice fishing episode.
Yes, tell the story.
The ice fishing episode was one of the first times that Tim and I really go outside of tool time.
Right. I remember
And
that.
I invite him up to this ice fishing shack, a friend of mine. And when we get there, it didn't feel like our relationship was outside of work. It just felt like the same.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to say, or I wanted something a little different. And there was little changes here and there, enough for me to feel okay. But I knew there was something more that I wanted to get across as opposed to just a tool time relationship.
Right.
And that was big for me.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Glimpses YouTube family. I hope you like, subscribe, and enjoy all of the clips and episodes coming your way. As you go about your day, I encourage you all to take a moment, look around, and catch a glimpse.